So let's talk about a label that, on the surface, sounds like a huge compliment, but might actually be hiding something way, way deeper. And that's this idea of being the low maintenance person. I want you to think about this for a second. Has anyone ever said that to you? A friend, a partner, maybe a family member? You're just so easygoing, there's no drama with you. And I mean, on the surface, that feels pretty good, right? It's like, great, I'm appreciated for being steady and uncomplicated. But what if there's a whole other side to that story? And yeah, this is exactly where that nice little compliment starts to fall apart. Because when you get so good at just being fine all the time, it can lead to this really profound, deep feeling of being, well, overlooked. Like your real feelings have become completely invisible. Okay, so where does this even come from? Well, here's the thing. Psychology tells us that being low maintenance probably isn't your core identity. It's not just who you are. More often than not, it's actually a super sophisticated adaptation, a survival strategy you learned, probably way back in childhood, just to keep things stable and peaceful. Think of it like this. If you grew up in a house where things felt tense, or maybe your parents were just emotionally distant, you learned really, really fast that the safest way to get by was to be quiet, to be cooperative, to not ask for too much, right? It was all about keeping things stable. And over time, what started as a strategy just becomes an automatic, unconscious habit. And this simple idea, it completely reframes everything. Suddenly, what the world sees as you being easygoing is really an adaptation. What looks like maturity, well, that's often a deep habit of self-suppression. In that fierce independence you're so proud of, it's actually a learned self-reliance that you developed because you absolutely had to. All right, so how does this childhood survival strategy actually play out in your adult life? Well, it usually shows up in 5 hidden patterns of self-suppression, and that's what we're going to break down right now. Yep, there are 5 key patterns that really define this persona. As we go through them, just see if any of them sound a little too familiar. Okay, number 1, you are a professional environment scanner. What does that mean? It means you are hyper-aware of your surroundings. It's like you've got this built-in emotional radar that's always on. So if this is you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can walk into a room and just feel the vibe instantly. You pick up on the tiniest shift in someone's tone of voice, and boom, you automatically adjust your own behavior to keep the peace. It's what makes you so empathetic. But let's be honest, it's also completely exhausting because you're constantly on defense, managing everyone else's emotions instead of just being in the room. All right, pattern number 2. You internalize your loud emotions. And this is all about what you do with those big, sometimes messy feelings, like anger or frustration or deep sadness. Instead of letting those loud emotions out, you just push them down. You tell yourself, oh, my problems aren't a big deal, or someone else has it way worse. And to everyone else, you look so mature, so level-headed. But inside, you might be so cut off from your own feelings that if someone genuinely asks, hey, how are you really doing? You actually can't find the words. Okay, number 3. This one's a big one. You are hyper-independent to a fault. This is where a good trait, independence, gets pushed so far that it actually becomes a wall. See, if asking for help as a kid was just unreliable, or worse, made you feel like you were a burden, you learned a really powerful lesson. I just have to solve it myself. So now, as an adult, that hyper-independence means asking for support feels totally unnatural. It's uncomfortable, maybe it even feels weak. Your brain is literally wired to believe that relying on yourself equals safety. So asking for help doesn't feel like a relief, it feels like a huge risk. And this leads to a really painful paradox, doesn't it? You're probably the person everyone else calls for help. You're the reliable one, the one with the answers. But when you're the one who's struggling, that phone feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. You just don't have anyone to call. Moving on to number 4. You tie your worth to being low demand. This is where your sense of self-value gets all tangled up with how useful and, well, easy you are for other people. You figured out pretty early on that being quiet and helpful got you good results. Maybe praise, or at the very least, just some peace and quiet. And that can grow into this core belief that you are only lovable when you are useful, or when you're not causing any trouble. This is the very engine that drives people-pleasing. It's why you say yes when every part of you is screaming no, all because you're terrified that being difficult or having needs will mean people will leave you. And all of this, it leads us to the 5th and final pattern, which is maybe the most painful of all. You have become invisible in your own life. It's the heartbreaking result of all the other patterns combined. You've become a background character in your own story. This right here is the ultimate price you pay for being the easy one. You've gotten so good at not needing anything and handling it all yourself that people just assume you're fine. They stop checking in, and that leads to this profound sense of loneliness. You feel like you're there, but you're not really seen. You feel important, but never like a priority, never truly chosen. Okay, so if you've been sitting there nodding along, if this is all hitting a little too close to home, you might be feeling kind of raw right now, and that's okay, because this is the part where we pivot. We're moving from understanding the problem to figuring out the path forward. Now, the first thing, and this is so important to hear, is that these patterns are not flaws in your character. Not at all. In fact, they are proof of your strength. You developed incredible empathy, a huge sense of responsibility, and amazing self-control because you had to. These were the tools that helped you survive. So that brings us to the new goal. The point isn't to just keep being perfectly easy. No. The real goal is to build relationships and a stronger sense of yourself where you feel safe enough to be honest, safe enough to express your needs, your frustrations, your boundaries, to be a real, messy, complex human being. Really, it all boils down to this. It's about a huge shift in your mindset. It's time to stop focusing on being easy and start focusing on being honest. So let's wrap this up with your key takeaway. First, it's just about awareness, seeing these patterns for what they really are. Old survival tools that, maybe they don't fit your life anymore. And from there, you can start to make a conscious choice, even in tiny moments, to choose honesty over just keeping the harmony. Start super small. Just start by expressing one tiny need. And that's the question I want to leave you with. It doesn't have to be some huge, dramatic declaration. It could be as simple as saying, I'm really tired tonight. Or I just need a minute to myself. So think about it. What is one single need you can be honest about today?